Huh? Noise. Bad noise.
5 minutes before critical mass.
Critical what? Okay, don't panic. Whatever problem this is, I'm sure they know how to handle it. Huh? Ah! It's my problem! We're doomed!
Sector 7G is now being isolated.
Early in 1942, a group of scientists led by Fermi gathered at the University of Chicago to develop their theories. By November of the same year, they were ready for construction to begin on the world's first nuclear reactor, which became known as Chicago Pile 1. The pile was erected on the floor of a squash court beneath the University of Chicago's athletic stadium. In addition to uranium and graphite, it contained control rods made of cadmium, a metallic element that absorbs neutrons. When the rods were in the pile, there were fewer neutrons who fission uranium atoms. This slowed down the chain reaction and ensured that it wouldn't get out of hand. On the morning of December 2, 1942, the scientists were ready to begin a demonstration of Chicago Pile 1. Fermi ordered the control rods to be withdrawn a few inches at a time during the next several hours. Finally, at 3:25 p.m. Chicago time, the nuclear reaction became self-sustaining. Fermi and his group had successfully transformed scientific theory into technological reality. The world had entered the nuclear age. However, the first nuclear reactor was only the beginning. Most early atomic research focused on developing an effective weapon for use in World War II. The work was done under the code name Manhattan Project. Once World War II was over, the world was free to use what Fermi had learned to pursue nuclear power as an energy source. The U.S. government supported nuclear power as an energy source and created a special type of reactor called breeder reactor. Experimental breeder reactor 1 was completed December 20, 1951 in Idaho. EBR-1 produced the first electricity from nuclear energy, but in very small amounts. At this point, the Soviet Union was not far behind the U.S. In June of 1954, the USSR completed the world's first nuclear-powered electricity generator in Obninski, Soviet Union. Another important early nuclear reactor was Calder Hall, which opened in England in 1956. Calder Hall was the first nuclear power plant to produce nuclear power commercially. The first commercial nuclear power plant in the U.S. was built in Shippingport, Pennsylvania, in 1957. Once Shippingport was up and running, utility companies all over the U.S. started to build nuclear power plants to sell energy to their customers. The first of such plants was the one constructed in Dresden, Illinois, which was constructed entirely without any government funding. The nuclear power industry in the U.S. grew rapidly in the 1960s. Utility companies saw this form of electricity not only as economical, but environmentally clean and safe as well. In the 1970s and 80s, however, growth slowed. Demand for electricity decreased, and concern grew over nuclear issues such as reactor safety, waste disposal, and other environmental considerations. Nevertheless, the U.S. had twice as many operating power plants as any other country in 1991. This was more than one-fourth of the world's operating plants.